Hi, I'm Gary Pritchard and welcome back to the Coach's Toolbox. Today's episode is about preseason. As coaches, we realize that preseason is a really important time. And there's always the challenge of how do we take all of these players that are reasonably talented and now get them to play together. So one of the things that coaches always talk about is, gee, I've got this team that seems to be pulling more apart than they are pulling together. So how do we pull it together? Today we want to talk about three basic areas that are very important to preseason in the early stages of meeting a team. Number one is icebreakers. Some of you have probably heard that term before. It's big in education, it's big in business and so on. If you're a Google person, you can go on and Google icebreakers and you'll see all sorts of activities that can be used with teams to help break the ice, if you will, to get them to know each other. One of the comments that I get a lot from coaches is, Coach, it seems like I've got these cliques that develop right away and I'm really concerned about them. And my advice is it's okay that cliques develop early in the beginning of the season. Cliques are natural. No matter what age we are or how we look, we naturally gravitate towards people who are like ourselves. And what I mean by like ourselves covers a lot of different areas, but there's just a comfort level, so we would go to that person in a room. I was once at a conference with Dr. Dan Freigang, and he did this in the audience, and he said, just take a look. He brought the lights up, and the older people were sitting with the older people, and the younger people were kind of sitting with the younger people. It's just something that's very natural. Now, as the season develops, we want to try to get those cliques to align in different directions at different times. But don't be too concerned about it at the very beginning. So what kind of icebreakers can you do? Well, let me give you some examples of things that I might do with a team starting off. For instance, you could have them do something very simply as, without talking, have all your athletes line up in order of their birth date, starting with January 1 through December 31st. So they're going to struggle a little bit with the communication issues, sign language, and moving back and forth. And right away, you'll find out a couple of things. One is how well they can communicate without speaking. Number two, you'll find out how quickly which ones will kind of automatically meld in, who will start to take a little bit more of the control of the situation. And then lastly, you'll see that commonalities will develop. People have their birthday on the same day or next to each other, so some threads of the fabric, if you will start to weave. Another good example of an icebreaker would be to do something like asking them to tell the group of something funny that happened to them. Or, please tell us about someone who has been very inspirational in your life and why. A third good icebreaker would be to pair your team up into groups of two and do what I call introduce your teammate. So you would give each group time to interview each other, and then you would be asked to interview your teammate. So in my case, I would be interviewing, let's say, Joe. Hi, my name is Gary, and I'm going to introduce Joe, and I would start to tell the team things that are interesting about Joe. And vice versa, Joe would introduce me. So what happens right away are some good things that you want in a team. One, active listening. Two, intercommunication in terms of sharing ideas and thoughts. Immediately, empathy will start to develop in terms of how people feel about things that are expressed and how they're expressed. And also, you start to bring teammates out of their shell. They've got to get up in front of the group and they've got to speak. To some kids, this is a big step, but it starts to build their confidence and also their comfort zone with their teammates. The second thing we want to do during preseason is try to get the team off-site. Now, off-site, at least for a day, get them away from their norms. Get them away from the gym or away from the field. Get them to a park. Get them to a recreational facility that's out of the area, even if it's just for the day. Eliminate all the distractions. It takes the parents out of the picture, the cell phones, and really get them to start to focus in on one another. Plan your activities for that day that are all about the team. Now, if you're fortunate enough to be able to go away for a few days, to go camping, to do things like hiking, you can have treasure hunts, you can do all sorts of activities. or go to a sports complex where you're staying there, where you're sleeping, eating, and being together, that's a wonderful thing. But everything you do during that time while you're away, you should walk together, stay together as a group, make decisions as a group, discuss things as a group. Everything should be done as a group. Try not to let the group fragment, because that's the whole idea. The last thing about that whole offsite thing is it starts to develop the natural team norms. You'll find out who sort of takes the lead in certain situations. You'll find out how the group is starting to develop, and it will naturally develop its own character. You'll have very little to do with it if you step back and just let it happen. And it will be very important to get that comfort fabric going for the team. The last thing that I want to talk about is for you as a coach, that you definitely have the basic team culture set up in your practices and in your workspace, whether it's a field, a gym, an ice rink, or a baseball field. Make sure that everything on that area shouts team. Try to make sure that everything that you do with the players, you make sure that they're dressed alike, that we speak to them together as a team. You walk away together as a team. You walk on the field together as a team. Everything is done together. You pull them in together. You make sure that everyone gets included, no stragglers. So you start to really pull it in, and you start to make the other teammates accountable to make sure that everybody's pulled in before anything begins. So you have a start for the key things like there's no one person bigger than the team. A good thing to do with a team at the beginning of preseason is to pull them all in and relate it to playing cards. You see, last year's hand, because you're going to have kids that maybe if you're a high school coach, you may have kids that have played for you for 3 years. And now all the cards are getting pulled back in and the playing deck is reshuffled, and we're going to play with a new hand that we're dealt. And if you can explain to the players that everybody's card is as important as another card, and that it's more about your individual personalities at this point than it is about anything that happens out on the playing field yet, that gives them a chance to get comfortable with it, that you're not playing favorites from last year's team and that everybody's important. So let's review. 3 important things. 1, you want them to pull together, not apart. So start off with some icebreakers. A great book, there's a good book called 101 Team Building Activities by Greg Dale. A good one to have in your coach's toolbox. Number 2, try to get off site. Do some things that are either away from the site for the day, or if you can get away for 2 or 3 days where they're doing everything together. That will have a tremendous amount of impact on your team. And lastly, make sure that you are doing everything that shows the basic elements of basic team culture. Being together as a team, wearing the same uniforms, speaking the speak. No one person is above the team. We work together. Everyone works together as one. So once again, thank you for joining us on the Coaching Toolbox. Next time on the preseason, we're going to be speaking about team goal setting. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.